How are we doing, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I'm just going to do a quick album review before I go to work. I just want to quickly talk to you about the debut album Rat God by Inhuman Condition, and that's reflecting a little bit. Let's get this awesome artwork there. Much in the vein of the sort of old school classic thrash and death metal albums. Is it Ed Repka? Is that his name? The the first three Death albums, the Violence, all the rest of it. This is I've snoozed on this band. I don't know why. I started seeing this CD doing the rounds in different social media group chats and whatnot. I got pretty much a bare bones edition. There's the photo of the band there. I got a little thank you note in my thing, which was always nice to get. That's a nice little perk when you buy directly from a band. I mean, I think Bandcamp, that is the site that has solved or is solving, attempted to solve the problems with the independent artist debacle. But right. I don't know why I didn't jump on this band sooner. There's better editions of this. There's a slipcase edition. There's bits with bonus tracks. There's cassettes and LPs and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know why. I listened to it once. I listened to a track here and there when it first came out, and nothing particularly jumped out at me. And I moved on to other things, and then it came back round onto my radar, and I listened to it again, and it just suddenly clicked, and I thought, why didn't I jump on this first time round? But anyway, better late than never. It's still this year it came out, so I thought I'd jump on it now and tell you all about it. So for those that aren't initiated, I mean, I'm late to this party, but Inhuman Condition is the brainchild of Jeremy Kling and Taylor Nordberg. On this project, Jeremy is doing the vocals and the drums, and Taylor Nordberg is doing the guitars. The two have worked together on various projects. Most notably, Infernion. You may remember them. Brian Werner, the notorious Brian Werner, was the front man of them, who went on to then be the front man of Vital Remains. Gore Gang, Rib Spreader, that's the one I'm most notably familiar with. I've got a Rib Spreader CD in the archive somewhere. Jeremy is also the drummer in Venom Inc. He's just apparently he's going to be on the new Venom Inc. album, so that's exciting as well. So yeah, these two obviously rising stars in the metal scene and have got a pretty decent CV under their belt already. But I do think I think the best is yet to come, and a bigger project is awaiting them. I think. So this was originally meant to be, the new Massacre album. The ongoing saga that is Massacre. They're kind of like the Cro-Mags of death metal. Massacre. It sort of chops and changes every so often. You get an update that there's a reunion or a new lineup, and you did have the Back From Beyond album with Terry Butler and Rick Ross as the original members. They had a new drummer and a new vocalist. I thought that was a really good album. A lot of people shit on it for some reason, but I thought it was good. I think Rick Ross is a fantastic. He was the star of the show for me. Obviously, his guitar on Leprosy is, that album is phenomenal, and yeah, he's the one I really was interested in. But anyway, Rick had the name, and now apparently Cam Lee's got the name. But they did reform together at one point, and they were going to do From Beyond in full, and yeah, it all gets a bit. Then it became Massacre X. Do you remember that? And yeah, it's all getting a bit confusing. So the Cam Lee has got the name and has hired these two to do the album. For some reason, the project's fallen through. Cam Lee's now got a new lineup. I'll talk about that a bit later, but primarily we're reviewing this. So yeah, the guys are sitting there with an album's worth of material that they don't know what to do with, all dressed up, nowhere to go, sort of so to speak. So they got Terry Butler, as we all know, from Death, Massacre, now an Obituary. He jumped on the project and played bass, and then apparently Jeremy originally did all the drums and then just stepped up and did the vocals, because he does vocals on another project as well, so that's no problem for him. And they put together this 32 minutes of death thrash wonderfulness, really. It's a pretty no frills, 9 tracks, 32 minutes, straight down, get into it. Old school death metal with a thrash metal edge. With it's not regurgitating anything. It's not retro, so to speak. It's just these guys understand what they're doing. They understand death metal, and they know how to write it and do it in a formula that isn't sticking to a formula without being formulaic, if you want to put it that way. I say old school. It's just classic. It's just a great recipe done properly. I've used that analogy before. Sometimes you want to go to a restaurant and you've got like you don't want some new fusion spin on it or something like that. You just want something done properly and done right with their own little touch to it, and that's what these guys have done. It's a beautiful mix of death metal and thrash metal put together nicely. The opening track, Europhobia, I think that is. The opening of that, it just opens up with like a real good old school sort of shredding old school riff with this squealing solo over the top with this scream over the top. It reminded me of Benediction, funny enough. I think that's a good place to start. Just, Benediction, a good, they're one of my favourite bands. I've done enough videos on them. If this is your first time watching, go back and watch that, by the way. I do one where I go through the entire catalogue, and then I do a separate one reviewing Scriptures, the new album at the time. And yeah, what's great about this band, there's in that opening track as well, that goes into a nice groovy sort of breakdowny sort of riff. The band know when to shred, and then they know when to open things up and let things breathe. As much as this is a death metal band, and it is a death metal band, they know how to use a sort of thrash aesthetic in terms of movement, getting the crowd moving. This is a death metal album with the mosh pit in mind. It's got, crowd participation in mind. It's got how are we going to get the crowd to move, rather than just sort of sit there death metal style and just, headbang. How can we get the crowd going? So, I mean, not that much that it sounds like him in any way, but I'll get a bit of like a Suicidal Tendencies sort of vibe as well. Suicidal Tendencies are all about getting the crowd going, and so as much as there's death metal riffs, death metal vocals, awesome drums, the band don't mind to throw in a dun 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 dun, a dun 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 ba 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 ba. They know how to throw a groove in and open things up a little bit, rather than just heads down shredding non-stop for half hour. The next snap is a prime example of that. Really good groove in that one. Planetary Paradoxium, good choppy riff with that, with a real beautiful solo over the top of it. Killing Pace is nice and thrashy as well. Like I say, they know when to throw in a good thrash riff. As much, you could tell this band is just as influenced by sort of Dark Angel or Violence as much as they are Massacre, Death, Obituary, etc. What else? Gravebound is a good one that opens nice and doomy with that one. Kicks into a sort of slow doomy as it builds up, and then goes into a nice thrashy riff. Tarantula, I think they've made a video for that one. That's the good place to start with this one. That's a highlight for me. It's just a great song, really good. Again, it sort of starts off with a drum intro, boom, boom. It was sort of not so much keyboards, but a bit of synthesizer in the background, just to show a bit of atmosphere. I think Rick Ross as well, funnily enough, of Massacre, does a solo on that. So we've got arguably more original Massacre members on this than we will have on the next album. But in the second half of the album, so say like where the track list is set out, so from Tarantula onwards, the album really does start to open up, and you sort of see the first 5 tracks are pretty much knuckle down. It's all about the shredding riffs, the pummeling drums, good choruses, good bits of grooves, good but it's all very straightforward. But a song like Tarantula, sorry, shows that the band can do a bit more with the songwriting. They can start adding a few more effects. I know it's just a short introduction, but it does show there's potentially more to come here. Got some on my shirt there. No, it's stuck. It's there forever. And then Crowd of Mediocrity as well. That's got a really good chorus. It's nice and hooky. It keeps things going really. But then Fait Accompli, the closing track, is carrying on what I'm saying about Tarantula really. That's quite an atmospheric song. And quite dark sounding. So you get your good sort of thrash death metal hybrid going forward, like to begin with, but then just little hints in these last 4 tracks. You've got the title track as well. Things just start to slightly open up a little bit, and it kind of leaves you wondering. Fait Accompli, most notably, you think, right, that kind of leaves things open a little bit to expanding. Now, apparently, I read an interview. There's 4 tracks from this recording session left over, so I don't know if they're going to put it out as an EP or if that's going to be the basis for the next album. But I mean, if I would give the band any advice, I would say look at songs like Fait Accompli and Tarantula and sort of start there. And right, we know that this was meant to be a Massacre album, but you can grow into something else from there, and that would be really exciting going forward. But yeah, a really good debut. Like I say, it seems like they've kind of made lemonade out of lemons, really. They've a blessing in disguise, really, that this has become its own little project, and it's exciting to see what will happen going forward. But yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything. Like I say, this is a very straight to the point, not an ounce of fat on it. 32 minutes of good, straightforward, thrash influenced death metal. Like I say, if you like your violence, if you like obituary, you like death, you like Massacre, for fuck's sake. You know, where that great little sweet spot where death metal was still developing and thrash metal at its heaviest was just sort of verging into death metal. So you had that little bit in the middle. It captures that wonderfully. And again, it's not regurgitating anything. It's not ripping anything off. It's just doing a good classic formula done properly, done from the heart. And you can tell they're passionate about what they do. They've just finished a tour as well. So obviously, you've got these 2 younger guys that are up and coming, and Terry Butler from, you know, the classic old school has jumped on board. And on this tour that they've just completed, I think they were opening for Gruesome. I think False Prophet were on the tour as well. But yeah, Lee Harrison of Monstrosity just did a tour with them drumming. So who knows where that could lead. If they could get him on the next album, that'd be fucking awesome. But yeah, you know, Lee Harrison, that guy is a legend on his own. Again, if you're new to the channel, check out my Monstrosity video as well, where I go through their back catalogue. So yeah, exciting times. Yeah, I really enjoyed this album. Shamefully, I wish I jumped on it sooner, but better late than never. We're here now. And yeah, just talking about Massacre, I'm kind of find it really hard to get excited about this new lineup. As much as you know Roger Johansson and Johnny Peterson. I mean, those 2 guys alone, they of course, you know, and Scott Fairfax is to me. I mean, Jeremy from this band is in a band with Roger. He's got another project going on. I mean, you got this little clique where they're all just putting out like an album every couple of months, and they all collaborate with each other. I mean, and I've got a lot of these albums as well, so I'm not knocking anyone. But he's mainly hired European and British musicians for this new band. But Massacre are a Florida death metal band, and this is going to sound like a European album, surely. I mean, it's just not going to sound right to me. I mean, like I say, with Johnny Peterson and you know, you've got Down Among the Dead Men, you've got like Roger and Johnny both do a lot of albums with David Ingram from Benediction. You've got the Just Before Dawn project. The amount of albums that come out on Transcendent Obscurity, you know, that record label, great label. It's all good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just thinking, you're hiring these guys for the new Massacre album, but it's gonna have that doomy sort of. It's gonna have a European feel to it, isn't it? Surely he should have hired American musicians to do a Florida influence, like Florida death metal. I don't know. Hey, I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong. You know, I hope the album is awesome. But I'm just a little bit, don't know. Whoever did the press release didn't do their own work as well, because they were sitting there talking about their last album, Back From Beyond. It's like, what, the album that no one in this band was on. That was quite funny. But yeah, I'm rambling now. We'll get to that when we come to it. But yeah, as a nice little Massacre spin-off, this has turned out to do very, very well. And yeah, this is a great album. I can't see why it wouldn't be in the top 10 at the end of the year. So yeah, well done, guys. Check this out. I'm sure you already have. I'm the one that's late to the party, as I keep saying. So yeah, we're back soon with more reviews. I've got stuff that I'm listening to. I'm just waiting for it to turn up, and then I can show it all off to you. Maiden Cast is back tomorrow. We're doing Senjutsu. I've got a couple of interviews coming up as well, so watch out for those. And yeah, got some more content coming up in the next couple of days, so keep watching. If this is your first video, welcome aboard. If you like what you saw, go check out the old videos and like and subscribe if you so wish. And I'll see you all soon. I'm off to work now, so take care. Cheers.